I never thought my son's wedding would end with me crying under a table. Not because I fell or anything dramatic like that, but because of what my granddaughter found there. If you've ever thought weddings were all about flowers, champagne, and dancing, well, you haven't met my family yet. The morning of the wedding started like any other big day, with too much coffee, too little sleep, and a cloud of hairspray hanging in the air. My son Michael was finally getting married. He was 34, successful, charming, and honestly, I thought he'd never settle down. But then came Rebecca. Calm, kind, always smiling like she knew a secret the rest of us didn't. The venue was this beautiful vineyard in Napa Valley, the kind of place you only see in magazines. Rolling green hills, fairy lights in the trees, and a band that cost more than my first car. I wore my best blue dress, the one my late husband always said made my eyes look kind. I'd been waiting years to see Michael find someone who truly made him happy. I just didn't know the day would bring back so many memories. And one massive shock. My granddaughter Ellie was 6, a whirlwind of pink tulle, curls and curiosity. She'd been practicing her flower girl walk for weeks, sprinkling petals around our living room until the cat started hiding under the couch. When she came running up to me that morning, face glowing and eyes wide, I could tell she was about to burst. "Grandma, Daddy looks like a prince," she squealed, tugging on my hand. "He does, doesn't he?" I smiled, straightening her flower crown. "And you look like the prettiest flower fairy I ever saw." She grinned, showing the gap where her 2 front teeth used to be. "Can I tell you a secret?" I leaned down, expecting something about ice cream or maybe a bug she found. But Ellie whispered, "You have to look under the table at the reception. Promise." Blink. "Under the table." She nodded, very serious now. "Promise, Grandma. It's important." Before I could ask what she meant, her mother, my daughter-in-law, soon-to-be ex-daughter-in-law if we're being honest, called her over for photos. Ellie skipped away, leaving me with a puzzled look and a flutter of unease. The ceremony was lovely, picture-perfect. Rebecca walked down the aisle in lace and sunlight, and when Michael saw her, he looked like a man seeing home for the first time. I felt tears prick my eyes. Proud, happy, and maybe just a little wistful. But all through the vows, I kept thinking about what Ellie said. Look under the table. The reception was held in a grand white tent filled with laughter, clinking glasses, and the smell of roasted chicken and roses. I chatted with old friends, took photos, and danced a little. But that phrase wouldn't leave me alone. As the evening went on, I noticed Ellie sneaking under tables more than once, giggling to herself. Kids do strange things at weddings, sure, but something about her determination made me uneasy. Finally, as dinner plates were cleared and the cake was rolled out, Ellie ran up to me again, breathless. "Grandma now. Look under Daddy's table, quick." Her voice was sharp this time, almost scared. I frowned but followed her gaze toward the head table, where Michael and Rebecca were laughing, hands clasped. The perfect picture of love. But Ellie tugged harder. "Please, Grandma. Do it now." People were watching us, curious. I hesitated. I mean, crawling under a table in front of 200 guests wasn't exactly on my to-do list. But there was something in Ellie's voice that chilled me. So I took a deep breath, smoothed my dress, and knelt down beside the table. And that's when I saw it. Something tucked carefully against the leg of Michael's chair. Something that didn't belong at a wedding at all. A small black box, half hidden behind the tablecloth, its red light blinking faintly. My heart stopped. It wasn't a bomb, though for a second that's exactly what I thought. No, it was a camera. Secret one. Pointed directly at the bride and groom. Froze. My pulse thudded in my ears. Why on earth would someone hide a camera there? And then I realized this wasn't just any camera. I'd seen one just like it before. Years ago. In Michael's old bedroom. The night everything in our family fell apart. My hands trembled as I stared at that little blinking light. The laughter and music above me sounded far away, like I was underwater. Ellie was crouched beside me now, her curls brushing my shoulder. "See, Grandma. I told you," she whispered, wide-eyed. "It's Daddy's secret camera." Her words hit me like a punch to the chest. Sweetheart, I whispered, forcing my voice to stay calm. Where did you see this before? In Daddy's closet. He said it's for important stuff, she said proudly, as if she'd uncovered treasure. My heart thudded harder. Important stuff. No. I remembered that camera. The same kind of camera Michael used all those years ago, when his first marriage fell apart. Back then, Michael had been convinced that his ex-wife, Lydia, was cheating. He'd become paranoid, restless, angry. One night, I went over to his house and found him sitting in the dark, surrounded by screens, watching footage he'd secretly recorded. He'd hidden cameras around his home, even in places no one should ever think to put them. When I confronted him, he'd looked ashamed, but he'd said, "Mom, I just need to know the truth." After Lydia left, I thought that obsession had ended. He'd promised therapy, promised he was moving on. But now this hidden camera. At his wedding, I gently pulled Ellie away from the table and stood up, trying to keep my voice steady. "Honey, go find Aunt Kelly, okay? Tell her Grandma needs a minute." She nodded and ran off, leaving me to face the music, literally and figuratively. I walked straight to the head table. Michael was laughing with Rebecca's brother, holding his champagne glass. He looked happy, so happy. It twisted my stomach. I leaned close and said quietly, "Michael, we need to talk." He frowned. "Mom, what's wrong?" "Not here," I said, glancing at Rebecca. "Outside." He followed me out into the cool night air behind the tent, confusion turning to irritation. "Mom, what's going on? You look pale." I took a shaky breath. "Michael, there's a camera under your table." He blinked. "What?" "Don't play dumb." I saw it. Ellie recognized it. "What's it doing there?" His jaw tightened, and for a second I saw that same haunted look from years ago. The one that said he was fighting a war no one else could see. "It's not what you think," he muttered. "Oh, really? Then tell me what it is. Because I swear, Michael, if you're spying on your own wedding." He cut me off, voice sharp. "It's for protection. I didn't want anyone to ruin today." "Protection? From who?" He hesitated, just long enough for me to know he wasn't being honest. Then he sighed and rubbed the back of his neck. "Rebecca's ex has been harassing her. I just wanted to make sure he wasn't here, that nobody tried anything." It sounded half believable, but his eyes darted away, and my mother's instinct told me he was lying. Before I could press further, we heard laughter behind us. Rebecca had stepped out, holding her gown to keep it from catching on the gravel. "There you two are. Everyone's asking for the first dance." She smiled, but it faded when she saw our faces. "Is everything okay?" Michael forced a smile. "Everything's fine, babe. Just Mom worrying as usual." Rebecca gave me a curious look but said nothing. She took Michael's hand and led him back inside, and I watched them disappear under the glowing tent. Felt sick. Not just because my son had lied, but because I could feel something bigger brewing under the surface. I walked back to my seat, but I couldn't enjoy a thing. The music, the speeches, the laughter. All of it felt like a thin layer of paint over a wall that was starting to crack. And then, halfway through the best man's toast, I noticed someone else watching. A tall man near the bar, wearing a gray suit and a camera badge around his neck. Except, his badge was upside down. And he wasn't filming the crowd. He was filming the head table. My pulse quickened. Who was he? I stood to get a better look, but before I could move, Ellie appeared again, tugging at my sleeve. "Grandma," she whispered. "There's another one." "Another what?" "Another camera. Under Mommy's chair this time." Froze. Whatever was happening, it wasn't just my son being paranoid anymore. Something or someone was setting a trap. And we were all sitting right in the middle of it. When I heard Ellie say there was another camera under her mother's chair, my whole body went cold. This wasn't just paranoia anymore. This was a setup. I forced myself to smile at her, even though my heart was pounding. "Sweetheart, are you sure?" She nodded, curls bouncing. I saw the little red light again. "It's the same." I gently squeezed her hand. You did a good job, Ellie. But don't tell anyone else yet, okay? Let Grandma handle it. She nodded solemnly, like I'd given her a top-secret mission. Then she scampered off toward the dance floor, blissfully unaware that her innocent eyes had just uncovered something dangerous. I turned back toward the tables. From where I stood, everything looked perfect. Fairy lights twinkling, guests laughing, the newlyweds dancing like a scene out of a dream. But underneath that perfection, I could feel something dark buzzing like static in the air. 2 hidden cameras. One under Michael's chair. One under Rebecca's. Both pointing up. It wasn't surveillance anymore, it was blackmail. I moved quietly toward the bar, pretending to grab another drink. But really, I was watching that man in the gray suit. He kept filming the couple, but every now and then, he'd glance at his watch, then at the back exit. He didn't look like a guest. And he didn't look like any of the hired photographers either. I felt a hand touch my shoulder. It was Kelly, my daughter. Mom, what's going on? You look like you've seen a ghost. I took a deep breath and told her. About the cameras, about the man, about Ellie's discovery. Her eyes widened. Are you kidding me? Who would do something like that? I don't know, I said quietly. But I think whoever it is wants something from Michael or Rebecca. Maybe both. Kelly frowned. You think it's Lydia? The thought hadn't crossed my mind. Not yet. Lydia, Michael's ex-wife, had moved to Seattle years ago. But the last time I saw her, she'd been angry, bitter, saying Michael had ruined her life. Still, would she go this far? I wasn't sure. Before we could say more, Michael's best man, his old college buddy, Jake, grabbed a mic to give his speech. The crowd cheered, glasses clinked, and for a moment, everything seemed normal again. Until I noticed Rebecca's expression. Her smile was too tight. Her eyes were scanning the room. Not lovingly but nervously, like she was waiting for something to happen. Then, as Jake made a joke about old flames, Rebecca's hand tightened around her glass. Michael laughed, oblivious, but she looked like she might faint. And suddenly, the man in the gray suit started moving, toward the head table. My instincts kicked in. I rushed forward, catching Rebecca's arm just as the man reached into his jacket. Rebecca, I whispered urgently. We need to talk. Right now. Her eyes flashed with panic. You saw them, didn't you? Froze. So you know about the cameras. She nodded, whispering fast. They're not Michael's. Swear. They're his. She glanced toward the man in gray. That's my ex, Colin. He said he'd stop if I married Michael. He said he just wanted to see if I'd actually go through with it. Why didn't you tell anyone? I hissed. Because if Michael found out, he'd lose it. He's not as stable as he looks. The pieces started to click together like a horrifying puzzle. Michael's paranoia from years ago. Rebecca's secret fear. Ellie's innocent eyes catching the evidence. This wedding wasn't built on love anymore. It was built on lies, blackmail, and old ghosts that refused to die. Just then Michael appeared beside us. What's going on? He asked, eyes narrowing. Rebecca tried to smile. Nothing, honey, just. Don't lie to me, he snapped, voice low but sharp. What did she say to you? I stepped between them. Michael, calm down. We'll talk outside. He glared at me. Mom, this is my wedding day. I'm not. Before he could finish, Colin, the man in gray, spoke up loudly from across the room. Michael, he called out, camera still raised. Smile for the truth. Everyone turned. Rebecca gasped. Michael's face drained of color. Colin held up a small remote and pressed a button. And suddenly, the screens behind the band flickered, and every hidden camera feed came to life. The crowd fell silent as images filled the tent. Not just from under the tables, but from inside dressing rooms. Private moments. Secrets that were never meant to be seen. Rebecca screamed. Michael lunged toward the stage. I grabbed Ellie and shielded her eyes as chaos erupted around us. Colin laughed, his voice booming over the microphone. Everyone deserves to see the kind of people they really are. Security rushed in, but the damage was done. Guests were shouting, phones flashing, the night unraveling into a nightmare. And as I held Ellie close, I realized the truth. Both Michael and Rebecca had been hiding things. But now every secret was out. And this wedding was never going to recover. The tent was chaos. People shouting, crying, running for the exits. The elegant vineyard wedding had turned into something you'd see on the evening news. The fairy lights flickered, half of them broken, and the cake was toppled over like a symbol of everything that had just collapsed. I clutched Ellie against me, her little hands trembling. "It's okay, sweetheart," I whispered, even though I didn't believe it. "It's going to be okay." Michael had tackled Colin to the ground. Chairs scattered. Rebecca screamed for them to stop. Security pulled them apart, but not before Michael landed one last furious punch. His face was red, his chest heaving like a man who'd lost everything. Colin spat blood, smirking. "You never changed, Mike. Still spying, still controlling." Michael's voice broke. "I didn't put those cameras there. You did." "Sure I did," Colin said, wiping his mouth. "But you made it real easy for people to believe otherwise." And with that, he was dragged out, shouting about how everyone would know the truth now. Silence fell like a heavy blanket after the police took him away. Guests avoided eye contact, whispering behind napkins. The band quietly packed up. Rebecca sat alone at the head table, makeup streaked, staring at the dark screens. Michael stood a few feet away, looking lost, like a boy who'd just been told his house burned down. I let Ellie go play quietly in the corner with her aunt and walked over to them. For a moment no one spoke. Finally I said softly, "You both need to talk." Rebecca laughed bitterly. "Talk? About what?" "About how I kept my exes stalking a secret. About how your son once spied on his own wife. We're just one big happy mess, aren't we?" Michael's face twisted with guilt. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I thought I could protect you. I thought." She looked up sharply. "Protect me? By hiding cameras under tables?" He froze. "I didn't." I stepped in. "I found the one under his chair, but the others, I don't think they were his." Rebecca's eyes filled with tears. "Then it doesn't matter. The world's already seen it. Colin made sure of that." The heartbreak in her voice cracked something in me. These two had both been so wounded by their pasts that they'd built walls instead of bridges. I sighed, sitting beside her. "Rebecca, when Michael was a boy, he'd take apart his toys to see how they worked. Always curious, always needing to understand. But sometimes that curiosity turned into fear. After Lydia left, he couldn't stop looking for what went wrong, even when it wasn't there." Michael looked at me, ashamed. "Mom, it's true," I said gently. "And you, Rebecca, you were just trying to survive. You didn't trust that someone could love you without watching over you. So you both ended up trapped by fear." They sat in silence. The night air drifted in through the torn tent flaps, carrying the smell of spilled wine and rain-soaked roses. Ellie ran up just then, holding a piece of wedding cake she'd rescued from the floor. "Daddy, Mommy, are you mad at each other?" Her little voice cut through everything. Rebecca wiped her tears. "No, baby. Just sad." Michael knelt down and pulled Ellie into his arms. "I'm sorry, Pumpkin. I wanted today to be perfect for you." She hugged him tightly, then looked up and said something that hit me straight in the heart. "Grandma says sometimes broken things can still be beautiful." I don't even remember saying that before, but maybe she'd heard me once long ago. Rebecca looked at me and smiled faintly through her tears. "She's a smart girl. Runs in the family," I said softly. The police returned a little later to take statements. Colin was in custody. They found more cameras hidden near the dressing rooms, all planted by him. The footage he'd shown wasn't live. It was old, spliced together from other events. He'd been planning this for weeks. When the last guest left, I helped pack up the mess. The sun had long gone down, and the vineyard lights flickered over the empty tables. Michael came over, hands in his pockets, eyes heavy. Mom, he said quietly, you saved me tonight. Again. I smiled wearily. No, honey. Ellie did. He chuckled softly, looking toward her, fast asleep in her aunt's arms. Guess she's got your instincts. Let's hope she gets your sense to listen to them sooner than you did, I teased. He laughed, then grew serious. I don't know if Rebecca will forgive me. Give her time, I said. You both have ghosts to bury. The next morning, after the dust settled, Michael called. He said Rebecca wanted to talk. They weren't sure about their future, but they were willing to rebuild. Slowly, honestly, without secrets. And me. I sat on my porch, coffee in hand, watching the sunrise over the quiet street. Sometimes life doesn't go the way you plan. Not even close. But sometimes the truth, however painful, is what sets you free. Ellie came out with her stuffed bunny, rubbing her eyes. Grandma, she said sleepily, are Mommy and Daddy still getting married? I smiled, pulling her into my lap. Sweetheart, they already did. But now they have to learn how to be married. She nodded like that made perfect sense. Then she added, You think I'll get to be a flower girl again? I laughed. Let's hope next time there aren't any secrets under the table. And as the morning light spilled across the yard, I felt something I hadn't in a long time, peace. Because even though the day had fallen apart, love, messy, complicated human love, had a way of finding its way back through the cracks. And that, I thought, might just be enough.